10 light years away, Gag Healthfront jacked up his smile by several notches. As he watched the picture on his vision screen, relayed across the sub-ether from the bridge of the Vogon ship, he saw the final shreds of the Heart of Gold's force shield ripped away and the ship itself vanish in a puff of smoke. Good, he thought. The end of the last stray survivors of the demolition he had ordered on the planet Earth, he thought. The final end of this dangerous to the psychiatric profession, and the subversive also to the psychiatric profession, experiment to the final question, to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything, he thought. There would be some celebration with his fellows tonight, and in the morning they would meet again their unhappy, bewildered and highly profitable patients, secure in the knowledge that the meaning of life would not now be, once and for all, well and truly sorted out, he thought. Family's always embarrassing, isn't it? Said Ford to Zaphod as the smoke began to clear. He paused, then looked about. Where's Zaphod? He said. Arthur and Trillian looked about blankly. They were pale and shaken and didn't know where Zaphod was. Marvin, said Ford. Where's Zaphod? A moment later he said, Where's Marvin? The robot's corner was empty. The ship was utterly silent. It lay in thick, black space. Occasionally it rocked and swayed. Every instrument was dead. Every vision screen was dead. They consulted the computer. It said, I regret I have been temporarily closed to all communication. Meanwhile, here's some light music. They turned off the light music. They searched every corner of the ship in increasing bewilderment and alarm. Everywhere was dead silent. Nowhere was there any trace of Zaphod or of Marvin. One of the last areas they checked was the small bay in which the Nutrimatic machine was located. On the delivery plate of the Nutrimatic drink synthesizer was a small tray on which sat 3 bone china cups and saucers, a bone china jug of milk, a silver teapot full of the best tea Arthur had ever tasted, and a small printed note saying, Wait. Ursa Minor Beta is, some say, one of the most appalling places in the known universe. Although it is excruciatingly rich, horrifyingly sunny, and more full of wonderfully exciting people than a pomegranate is of pips. It can hardly be insignificant that when a recent edition of Playbeing magazine headlined an article with the words, When you are tired of Ursa Minor Beta, you are tired of life, the suicide rate quadrupled overnight. Not that there are any nights on Ursa Minor Beta. It is a West Zone planet, which by an inexplicable and somewhat suspicious freak of topography consists almost entirely of subtropical coastline, but an equally suspicious freak of temporal relostatics. It is nearly always Saturday afternoon just before the beach bars close. No adequate explanation for this has ever been forthcoming from the dominant life forms on Ursa Minor Beta, who spend most of their time attempting to achieve spiritual enlightenment by running around swimming pools and inviting investigation officials from the Galactic Geotemporal Control Board to have a nice diurnal anomaly. There is only one city on Ursa Minor Beta, and that is only called a city because the swimming pools are slightly thicker on the ground there than anywhere else. If you approach Light City by air, and there is no other way of approaching it, no roads, no port facilities, if you don't fly, they don't want to see you in Light City. You will see why it has its name. Here the sun shines brightest of all, glittering on the swimming pools, shimmering on the white palm-lined boulevards, glistening on the healthy bronze specks moving up and down them, gleaming off the villas, the hazy air pads, the beach bars and so on. Most particularly, it shines on a building, a tall, beautiful building consisting of two 30-storey white towers connected by a bridge halfway up their length. The building is the home of a book and was built here on the proceeds of an extraordinary copyright lawsuit fought between the book's editors and a breakfast cereal company. The book is a guidebook, a travel book. It is one of the most remarkable, certainly the most successful, books ever to come out of the great publishing corporations of Ursa Minor. More popular than Life Begins at 550, better selling than The Big Bang Theory, a personal view by Eccentrica Galumbitz, the triple-breasted whore of Eroticon 6, and more controversial than Oolong Clufford's latest blockbusting title, Everything You Never Wanted to Know About Sex But Have Been Forced to Find Out. And in many of the more relaxed civilizations on the outer eastern rim of the galaxy, it has long supplanted the great Encyclopedia Galactica as the standard repository of all knowledge and wisdom. For though it has many omissions and contains much that is apocryphal or at least wildly inaccurate, it scores over the older and more pedestrian work in two important respects. First, it is slightly cheaper, and secondly, it has the words "Don't Panic" printed in large friendly letters on its cover. It is, of course, that invaluable companion for all those who want to see the marvels of the known universe for less than $30 Altarian a day. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. If you stood with your back to the main entrance lobby of the guide offices, assuming you had landed by now and freshened up with a quick dip and a shower, and then walked east, you would pass along the leafy shade of Life Boulevard, be amazed by the pale golden colour of the beaches stretching away to your left, astounded by the mine surfers floating carelessly along 2 feet above the waves, as if it was nothing special, surprised and eventually slightly irritated by the giant palm trees that hum toneless nothings throughout the daylight hours. In other words, continuously. If you then walk to the end of Life Boulevard, you would enter the Lalamatine district of shops, bolo nut trees and pavement cafes where the Betans come to relax after a hard afternoon's relaxation on the beach. The Lalamatine district is one of those very few areas which doesn't enjoy a perpetual Saturday afternoon. It enjoys instead the cool of a perpetual early Saturday evening. Behind it lie the nightclubs. If on this particular day, afternoon stretch of evening time, call it what you will, you had approached the second pavement cafe on the right, you would have seen the usual crowd of the Betans chatting, drinking, looking very relaxed and casually glancing at each other's watches to see how expensive they were. You would also have seen a couple of rather dishevelled-looking hitchhikers from Algol who had recently arrived on an Acturian megafreighter, aboard which they had been roughing it for a few days. They were angry and bewildered to discover that here, within sight of the Hitchhiker's Guide building itself, a simple glass of fruit juice cost the equivalent of over $60 Altarian. Sell out, one of them said bitterly. If at that moment you had then looked at the next table but one, you would have seen Zaphod Beeblebrock sitting and looking very startled and confused. The reason for his confusion was that 5 seconds earlier he had been sitting on the bridge of the starship Heart of Gold. Absolute sellout, said the voice again. Zaphod looked nervously out of the corners of his eyes at the two dishevelled hitchhikers at the next table. Where the hell was he? How had he got there? Where was his ship? His hand felt the arm of the chair on which he was sitting and then the table in front of him. They seemed solid enough. He sat very still. How can they sit and write a guide for hitchhikers in a place like this? Continued the voice. I mean, look at it. Look at it. Zaphod was looking at it. Nice place, he thought. But where and why? He fished in his pocket for his 2 pairs of sunglasses. In the same pocket he felt a hard, smooth, unidentified lump of very heavy metal. He pulled it out and looked at it. He blinked at it in surprise. Where had he got that? He returned it to his pocket and put on the sunglasses, annoyed to discover that the metal object had scratched one of the lenses. Nevertheless, he felt much more comfortable with them on. They were a double pair of Dujanta 200 superchromatic peril-sensitive sunglasses, which had been specially designed to help people develop a relaxed attitude to danger. At the first hint of trouble, they turn totally black and thus prevent you from seeing anything that might alarm you. Apart from the scratch, the lenses were clear. He relaxed, but only a little bit. The angry hitchhiker continued to glare at his monstrously expensive fruit juice. Worst thing that ever happened to the guide, moving to Ursa Minor Beta, he grumbled. They've all gone soft. You know, I've even heard that they've created a whole electronically synthesized universe in one of their offices so they can go and research stories during the day and still go to parties in the evening. Not that day and evening mean much in this place. Ursa Minor Beta thought Zaphod, at least he knew where he was now. He assumed that this must be his great-grandfather's doing. But why? Much to his annoyance, a thought popped into his mind. It was a very clear and very distinct, and he now had come to realise these thoughts for what they were. His instinct was to resist them. They were the preordained promptings from the dark and locked off parts of his mind. He sat still and ignored the thought furiously. It nagged at him. He ignored it. It nagged at him. He ignored it. It nagged at him. He gave in to it. What the hell, he thought. Go with the flow. He was too tired, confused, and hungry to resist. He didn't even know what the thought meant.
I hope you'll join us at the restaurant at the end of the universe when the next chapter drops very soon.